Hey, welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. I'm Lauren Hubele, and I'm here today with Jyoti Wind. Welcome, Jyoti.
Thank you, Lauren. Glad to
Jyoti,
be here.
I'm glad you're here too because I'm hoping you can unpack this crazy week we're in astrologically.
It's a very pronounced week. We're coming out of Mercury turning direct Sunday evening. It had been retrograde for 3 weeks. A reevaluation of what's important to us, relooking, rethinking things. And then Mercury went direct on Sunday evening. And today, Jupiter enters Taurus and will square Pluto tomorrow. And then, and I'll explain. I'm just naming things here. And then Mars will enter Leo on Saturday, and at the same afternoon, square Pluto. Oppose Pluto. So we have in astrology what's called a T cross. When
Ooh,
I make that sign, that's a sign for time out.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
realize
mm,
doing that, that's a sign for time out. And you could say this week is time out. You
wow.
know, I've had to cancel a couple things already this week for one reason or another. And I thought, okay, this opens up some energies for me to sit with and look at. So, generally speaking, Jupiter square Pluto, Jupiter entering Taurus for the next year. It's been in Aries off and on for the past while. And so Jupiter enters Taurus for the next year and is going, Taurus people will love this because it's very expansive. They feel bigger, they feel like more things are possible. And so Jupiter entering Taurus is going to expand our values. You know, Mercury has just come out of that Taurus retrograde. Jupiter's moving into Taurus. Things start opening up, expanding, more opportunities, more groundedness to a great extent. And so then also tomorrow, Jupiter is squaring Pluto and is, you know, when I see Jupiter square Pluto, like in somebody's chart, like a transit to their natal Pluto, I say to them, look at where you might be giving your power away and
Mm.
where you need to reclaim it. Because the right use of power is to embrace it, empower yourself, and help everybody around you feel empowered or step into theirs as they're ready. Okay. So I think there's some of that this week. And by the time we get to the new moon on Friday, it's just, you know, really emphasizing the last two eclipses we had. Pluto's retrograde, Mercury was stationing, Jupiter's entering Taurus. We have this new moon on Friday, and Saturday, Mars enters Leo and opposes Pluto and squares Jupiter, forming what's called a T cross. Okay, Mars opposing Pluto, both being squared by Jupiter. And so it's pushing the envelope because Mars opposed Pluto can be very confrontational.
Mm.
Okay, yes. So the advice that's been given, the astrological advice that was given to me in this talk I was listening to was cool your jets, basically. You know,
Wow.
don't engage. You know, have your boundaries, let other people have their feelings while you have yours, and don't get caught up in somebody else's stuff, basically. So it's a lesson around that.
Wow. Would we be feeling that already?
Yeah, yeah. Mars is very close to its opposition to Pluto. You know, so the way out is through going deeper within yourself and looking at what's happening here. Is this a mirror for me to look at and see what part do I play in all this, or do I do this? Um, it's also a moment in time to really look at um, where you might be really fixed in your ideas about how things are, because Pluto, having just moved into Aquarius, is fixed air. Jupiter entering Taurus is fixed earth. Mars moving into Leo on Saturday is fixed fire. And so it's all very fixed and definite, and this is how I feel, and this is what works for me, and these are my values and
Mm.
priorities. And it's like, we need a little flexibility here, folks.
Okay, so that would give us some clashes in couples and families, right?
It could even in business deals,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
Mars opposed Pluto is not, it's not necessarily friendly. I mean, it has its work, it has its job, it has its place where it pokes at things enough to uh, kind of push you to look at things in a deeper
yeah,
way. It's um, and it also shows you where you may have been necessarily or unnecessarily protecting yourself.
mhm,
But it's a fierceness.
yeah.
Mars opposed Pluto is a fierceness. It doesn't take any prisoners, let's say. You know, um,
Yeah. Jyoti, this is reminding me of not an astrological talk we did, but one of the others where you talked about mirrors, actually. And I would want to direct our readers or listeners to take a peek at that one, where you talked about it being an opportunity to pause and notice your reactivity.
yeah, instead of response.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this can easily bring up those kinds of situations.
Mm,
you know um but it shows you where you have work to do.
yeah.
It shows you
Yeah.
where you're not exactly where you thought you might be, kind of, like where there's still some reactivity, where there's still some places of blame outside yourself. I mean, and nobody's perfect, and we're not striving for total perfection, perhaps, in
Mhm.
this life. We're just, people who are very perfectionistic. I try to just suggest to them, just give it your best shot. You know, give
Yeah.
it your best shot and move on. You
Yeah.
do what you can do and you move on. Don't make yourself crazy trying to get things perfect, because this is not perfection. This is not heaven. This is earth. And earth is like fourth grade, and we learn certain lessons here, and we go through certain kinds of situations that help us grow beyond how we've seen ourselves. And so, nothing's perfect here,
Yeah.
but you have to give it your best effort.
And that's always so lovely how you point that out, Jyoti. That we just show up and do our work, right? The best we
Yes,
can.
yes.
Jyoti, I'm wondering because I'm now thinking more about folks out in the workaday world that may be trying to wrap up a deal or finalize something coming into these days. Maybe that's not a good time for that.
Well, anything between the full and new moon should be about finishing up old business.
Right.
After the new moon, at the new moon, between the new and the full, that's the time to initiate things, to get things going, start a project, you know, uh, just move things along. But this week, because of the potency of this T cross, the new moon on Friday will carry this aspect of Mars opposed Pluto squaring Jupiter for the following lunar cycle, which is 30 days. And
Wow.
so it's not just this week, although this week is like the real thrust of it, but the new moon will carry the aspect through the next month until the next new moon. Um, and so maybe in a slightly watered down effect, this aspect will stay with us for the next month.
So if the warning is be careful not to bite the hook and engage, what's the gift in this?
Insight.
Ooh.
Incredible insight into self, into how things work, into what you're willing to engage with and what you're not. But seeing, not just visually seeing, just really almost viscerally understanding um, who you are and what you don't need anymore, what you don't need to engage with, what you don't need to put yourself in the position of anymore. Because a lot of people, they take things. They take, and then they might explode in true Pisces fashion, but they just kind of go along and suffer it, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I've had enough.
Mm.
For some people, this could be a week that they've had enough. By Sunday morning, it might be okay. I've had it. I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy I'm done.
Mhm.
I'm done with where I've given myself away. I'm done with where I've said okay to things I really don't feel okay about, and want something different, want to live in a different way or express myself in a different way or engage in a different way. It's like, what is it? Don Juan in the Carlos Castaneda book says, some people don't do things until their back's against the wall. And personally, I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay. So there's a lot of backs against the wall potential this week, this year, but especially this week.
Okay.
So it's ultimately transformative. It just is not an easy week. And if you talk to people, since Pluto went direct on April 30th, and or maybe it was May 1st, and it's been intense. They've had an intensity with that Pluto going retrograde. Actually, it was going retrograde, turning within. And so it's more about internal transformation for these next 5 months. And then Pluto will go direct, usually August or September, and we get a chance to express what we've just been working on. Okay. But this week is by itself very intense.
Okay. Good week for some self-care.
Absolutely, Lauren. Absolutely. Taking it slower. Just kind of just being being with self, being with nature, being with your own breath, whatever of any of that you can manage. It's like uh, quieting.
Mm. Yeah, great advice as always, Jyoti.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Um, I think the pressure will lessen. I don't want to say abate, but lessen by mid-June. I think the summer holds,
That's a month away, Jyoti.
Oh, well, yes, but it's not 6, you know? So yeah, it's like I think that what with Pluto moving into Aquarius at the end of March, that third week of March, it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn till late January, I think it is, of 24. And I think we'll have work to do. We'll see what needs to shake out and what needs to be firmed up, so to speak, in our own process. But I think it'll feel a bit easier. I think that this week is just, really pushing the envelope for change, and then it kind of backs off a bit.
Mm, mm. Okay, so just do it, right? Just make the change and then we can get on with life.
Yeah. But this is life too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Jyoti, thanks so much for this.
Oh, you are very welcome.